Disney has released a new live action movie based on Disney princesses, and that is Moana. And now that I've seen it, I'll tell you all about it. And is it worth watching? Moana in 2026 is the live action version from the animated movie in 2016, directed by Thomas Kail and starring Dwayne Johnson as Maui, Catherine Lagaaya as Moana, and the rest of the cast which are listed right here. Let's jump right into the movie takeaways and analysis, where I'll find out how the live action version can achieve by distinguishing the animated version. How well can it retell the story? How well can they do with the visuals and the production? And what else can they add to the movie? Let's begin on what is faithful with the live action version from the animated version. First, of course, is their Polynesian culture. Moana being represented by their community, you will see their customs like the dances, basket weaving, traditional tattooing, and how they use the coconuts for eating and making fire. And with the castings who represent their community, it made it more authentic with how they showcase their customs. Second is their story details and pacing. Overall, it stayed consistent from where it starts, which is the opening of Maui, and where it ends, which is the part where the islanders become voyagers again. And lastly is their music. Their soundtracks are utilized in the movie. There are some that are reproduced and some that are reused from the animated movie. But there is a new song that was introduced in the live action movie, and that song is entitled Along the Way.
You're on your way, you're on the ocean, you're flying towards an undiscovered shore.
By those key takeaways, it managed to stay faithful with the animated movie. No certain story change-ups, no additions except for the new song, and a realistic showcase of their Polynesian culture. But you will get the same feeling of closure and nostalgia even though the movie isn't this close to being 10 years old. Now that's just something to be presented. But the question is, how well does it present its story? How well is the acting and humor and other additional strengths and weaknesses, which may judge on how well the experience is. Let's start with how it presents its story and experience. Despite staying true to the original, the story got too direct and straight to the point, where the experience by the dialogues and other moments doesn't feel as anticipating and rewarding for a reaction. I will showcase one of my examples with the animated clips to avoid further spoilers.
Uh,
My first example is in this part of the movie, where Moana is distracting Tamatoa with the heart of Te Fiti, which was later discovered that it was made from glowing algae. In the live action version, the scene of the glowing algae didn't show any close ups to better determine that outcome, which loses that anticipation for something that can go wrong. Another example would be the part where Teifiti gave them a boat after saving her. In the live action movie, that part wasn't shown at all. After Maui got his fishhook, it jumped directly to where Maui and Moana got their boat. So it's like, how? I thought their boat was destroyed. How did they get it back? So that moment loses its context of the story. By how the story is too direct, it made it too predictable by sequences, bland by dialogues, and too simplified with storytelling. Now that is the story. What about the characters played in the story and how they portray their emotion by the cast members for a worthy experience? By the character play, the characters were mild with their emotions, and what keeps the experience very touching. For example, Chief Tui, played by John Tui, who is Moana's father, doesn't feel strict. Another would be Maui. Maui doesn't feel humorous because of the bland dialogues and predictable storytelling. And another would be Moana. Her character in the live action was too cheerful, where her particular scenes shows her celebrating after something succeeded or something good happened. and doesn't try to stay focused for something that is serious. So, what I mean by mild, the character interactions were inconsistent with conveying emotion, where there are parts that feel serious but doesn't feel serious. And there are parts that feels funny but doesn't feel funny. And that is because of their direct storytelling. And that is their character play. Now let's move on to their visuals and production by computer graphics and cosmetics. Keeping the impressive CGI and VFX compositing aside, which are my positive notes, there are some parts that seem too much and weird, which I had to use my technical eye for this one, starting with the Kakamora, the coconut pirates. By their design, they look more like hairy creatures instead of coconuts with limbs, which are simpler by design and animating without additional movements, and more creative because it suits more on its tropical aesthetic. By that thought of hairy creatures, they look like labubus with coconut masks. Another would be Maui's body. By my judgment, it's a bodysuit. But the problem behind it is that it's too polished, where you have all the tattoos, the muscles, but he has no nipples. Maui has no nipples. He didn't even try to pinch them so it extrudes. And that's all I can say about the visuals. To end on a positive note, their CGI work was well made and well blended with reality, and the VFX and light compositing were astonishing and well put together. That is it for my analysis. Now for my final verdict. The live action Moana stayed faithful with the animated version, where it has the story details, story pacing, and the music, including their live display of their culture with castings who are part Polynesian, which made it more authentic. Visualization by production was stunning, but some resulted to being too much and too polished. While it displays its faithful story, their way of storytelling was very direct, which may lead to predictable moments and removed sequences, while delivering their unconvincing emotional depth and humor, which made the experience very mild. And with that, this is my final rating for the live action Moana, 3 and 1/4 or 3.25 out of 5 stars. So yeah, overall movie was dull, but I never said that it was good or bad. But the best way that I can describe it is that it was narratively unconvincing, but presentably appealing. For a live action movie, it was considerable. Unlike for Snow White and Mulan, which both of them have a different perspective of storytelling, it didn't stay true with the originals or humorous as before. Now to my conclusion, is the live action movie worth watching? My answer to that is it depends by preference. If you prefer to watch the live action Moana for the purpose of reimagining the story in a real life aspect, then you may proudly watch it. But if you prefer the original 2016 movie for how well it can connect to you and to other people, then you may live up to that preference. Despite receiving low scores from critics and the love and hate responses from social media, I explained my side of this monstrosity, which I tried to balance out the good and bad and what is objective. But if you've seen the live action version, I am curious to know what your take is from the movie and what else can you add with its strengths and weaknesses. Please do comment down below. And that's it for this video. Thank you for sticking around. Have a blessed day.